Welcome to the Right Brain Cafe podcast. This is James, and with me is Regina.
Hello.
And we actually have been doing this once a month, it seems. I've been looking back, and we've been averaging one episode a month. Although we try to do it every week, it's just that our lives, plus the holidays, the last couple of months have been difficult. So I think it's actually something to be proud of that we've managed to do at least one a month, considering all the stuff we've been through, and the holidays.
And the holidays. So we're off to a fresh start in a new year.
Yeah, I'm excited for this year. February is when Bookworm's Horror Zine issue, is this 7 already?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, issue 7, Space Horror. Is that what we're calling? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, space horror.
Yeah, Space Horror. That's going to be the theme. And so if you haven't already, you can go to bookwormshorror.com and pick up any of our past issues. Look for the new one coming out soon. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at bookwormshorrorzine. And that's where you can find us. That'll let you know when the issues will be coming out.
It'll be in a couple weeks. I still have a couple stories that I'm reading through, but it's basically set.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
And I will be, I believe, at the Horror Sideshow Convention in February. And then I'm trying to get into the Lancaster Zine Fest. I'm really looking forward to both of those events.
Me too. And I hope I can go to the Lancaster one.
Yeah, I think that one will be in April.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
A little better weather.
Yeah, that's true. So what's going on in your world?
Well, just kind of getting back into the swing of things after the holidays. I've been writing. I started a new book, just exploring different platforms for like books that I already have written. I decided instead of publishing on Amazon my fantasy series that I put it on Royal Road. Do you know this website?
I do not.
It's kind of like Wattpad, but for mostly for fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying something new.
You recently put out Final Dress.
Yes.
This episode, we're going to talk about self-promotion and at what point does it become toxic, promoting yourself at the point where, like, why are you doing it if it's this?
Yeah.
And, we're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about our own experiences with this, but also things that other people have said about this topic. Yeah,
I have a list of some things that people said. And so there's a couple of things I want to talk about when it comes to this. First off, we have to say, it's a necessary evil, right? If you're an artist, no matter what your field, you got to let people know unless you're not interested in people seeing or reading your art.
Yeah.
Or hearing it.
The old model was kind of like, and I definitely romanticize about this, although I don't really think it applies anymore. But the old model is I just want to be in my tower or my tree house. I just want to do the creative part. And I want someone else to deal with the thing I don't like to do, which is promote myself because I'm an introvert and I'm not comfortable with putting myself out there, this kind of thing. When self-promotion was always part of the artist journey on some level, I believe, whether it was Renaissance artists having to court wealthy patrons and the church and all this stuff. Like the money has to come from someone. And somewhere. So I think that although as creatives and artists, we might resist having to do that by promoting ourselves, it is a reality that we need to face. And I guess what we're talking about today is how to do that while maintaining balance, like a balanced life where it hasn't taken over your life.
Yes.
And I have definitely felt that pressure. I don't know if we talked about that the other day when we met for coffee.
Well, that's why this topic came up, because we were talking about this and we're like, let's talk about this on the podcast. The issue is, how do you do it in today's environment where you feel like you have to be on constantly, and posting constantly?
Yes. And is that healthy and does it work?
Well, I don't think it works. And we have 2 episodes, I think, if you want to go back and listen to. One is called Nobody Cares.
Yeah.
I love that episode. And that has a lot to do with what we're talking about, because how you use social media or any kind of promotion, first off, you got to realize that. First off, nobody cares. And then, so why are you even doing it? And the other thing is an episode called Social Media is Dead, which we're going to kind of talk a little bit about this too. But I want to talk, I don't know if you watch Only Murders in the Building. It's a Hulu original.
No, I don't have Hulu.
All right. So
I'm missing out.
Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. It's funny. There's 4 seasons. And season 4, they are trying to figure out, like, they're in the Arconia is the building in New York City where they live. And when they look out the window of the West Wing, they see these people and they think that one of them is the killer. One guy's called the Christmas guy because his whole house is decorated like Christmas and he's wearing Christmas outfit all the time. So they eventually go over and they're interrogating him, and they think because Steve Martin tried to get real Christmas trees not like banned from the hotel, that he was so angry that he tried to kill Steve Martin. That's kind of what they're accusing him. And he's like, you think I like Christmas? I hate Christmas. And then they look around, everything's Christmas. The reason why he is all Christmas is because he did one video that went viral. Oh. Now, he's a fitness guy. His thing was he just wants to teach people fitness, but he had this one video that had something Christmas in it, and he got so many likes and follows that he feels like everything had to be Christmas.
Oh, no. It's like he's stuck with it now.
Yes, and so he hates it so much.
That's funny.
But it's his entire brand now.
But that's clever because I think that is what, taken to a comical degree, it can feel like a trap. I mean, there was this woman. I sort of had my burnout moment at the end of the year, which I think I did mention in my last YouTube video, where I'm like, I felt this pressure. I was on Twitter too much, and I'm like, you know what, I am getting burnout. This isn't helping me getting any notice. This is just keeping me from doing what I'm doing. But I did, and I was doom scrolling too much. But this is something I noticed where, and I forget her name, but this woman, I think she was middle-aged lady, I think she might be like British or something, posted this really sad tweet when she was at a book signing or some kind of book fair. And she's like, well, at least I sold 2 books. I only sold 2 books. It was kind of like the sad thing, but I'm going to keep trying. Well, that went viral, and people, I guess, were affected by the fact that she only sold 2 books. Anyway, long story short, she got propelled to the #1 bestseller list. She was on all these TV shows, and this just happened like a couple weeks ago. If you want to look into it, you might be able to find some information about it, but she was getting picked up on news programs, and basically she went viral. Now that was a great promotion for her, but you can't plan something like that.
Right.
Because I'm wondering, and now, should I or everyone else who's struggling selling books, should we like post our own like sad tweet to try to make that happen? I don't think so.
That's interesting. So I'm going to bring up, this is something that this was on a website called The Plottery, and I think it's about book writing, because The Plottery. And this was written by Juliana Palermo. And I want to bring this up because you just said that. Like, now that you saw that, should we be doing it? And so I'll read, it's like a paragraph. She says, the massification of the internet is actually pretty paradoxical. We would assume that being so many people, one could find the most unique things going around on the web. But not exactly. It seems that we are trying to become more and more alike.
Yeah.
We're a mass of people following trends, dressing the same, reading the same books, consuming the same films, and it's okay. We all have natural tendencies to want to belong in a community. But talking about social media self-promotion and having to sell ourselves in order to sell our art, I'm going to give you the most important advice that there is to give in marketing and in life. Don't be like everything else.
Yeah.
Like everyone else. Yeah. And she's saying, because if you're trying to blend in with other people doing the same dances and videos and tendencies that everyone on the internet is doing, then you're not standing out. And for people to know you and know your art, you need to show them you've got what no one else does. So be weird, be authentic, be you, and do what you do best. And then people come along after that. And that's exactly what we're seeing is that somebody's like, oh, that seems to be how you become famous. Now, that woman might have been authentically being her when she did that.
No, I think she absolutely was. And I think that's why it resonated with people.
Exactly. But
because she was being sincere. But if I try to be pathetic, not that she's pathetic, you know what I'm saying? But I think the reason that, gosh, Hopefully she's not listening. But I think the reason why it went viral is because people felt for her.
Right.
You know, she seemed like a really nice person and she deserves better than that. But if I try to manufacture that,
yeah, people can sniff that out.
Yes.
And
people have gotten a lot smarter about these things. Although I guess a big part of marketing is like all of that manufactured manipulation.
Yeah, but we're also the same manufactured manipulation that worked like 10 years ago doesn't work today. And same thing, we're starting to see certain things on social media where you see people promoting and you're like, yeah, that's completely, almost everything I watch now seems completely manufactured. The stuff that's not supposed to. Those random guy shows up and plays in the piano and then all of a sudden all these people join in on music. Yeah. It's like, no, you guys made that up. Stop acting like that, you know?
I know. And that was something like 20 years ago. We would have been like, oh, that's so authentic and cool.
Yeah. But now it's like, it's obviously, and if you know anything about filmmaking, it's super obvious because it's like, okay, why is the camera already there?
Why are we getting like two different angles?
Yes,
on this?
Exactly. And why is why is the audio really good? You know?
There is a lot of that, and you can't really plan it. And then I think another part of the burnout for me is just not saying like, I'm too old to learn new things, but I just learned a whole new editing software system. So, I can do it. It's good for my brain. But when I go on like my Facebook group, when I see some people selling $500,000 worth of books in 1 year, and you're like, why can they do this? Why am I not doing this? And then they talk about their secrets, how they got there. And they're spending like half a day, like 8 hours a day on TikTok, like literally. It's like, when do you have time to write the books?
Yeah.
And, like, I cannot do that. Like I'm not. I know you have a TikTok experience and you actually went viral. And did you feel, we've talked about this before, but did you feel a pressure to like do it more?
Yes. So I'll go quickly through my TikTok. So I have probably like at least 250,000 followers, right? And I haven't done it though in a while, right? I've not been on TikTok I was doing TikTok, and I think this is maybe why I got to that number, was I was doing it when everybody was laughing at me for doing it.
Okay.
Like, oh, isn't that a kid's thing? And I'm
right.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but it's working, like I was getting, and so I was doing it. But yes, I was doing, and I would say this, if you watch some of my old ones, when people would ask, I'd say, I have to do like 3 or 4 videos a day,
Wow.
in order to get that. On top of that, like I have many videos that are over 1 million views, right? So those I would consider viral. I've actually seen articles where they called people TikTok stars and they had less followers than me. And I don't consider myself a TikTok star. And I don't.
You are though, if you have that. If you have 1 million views,
right? But I don't know what that means. So having that hasn't changed anything. Hasn't made me famous and rich.
Yeah, I mean, I could see if your readership is a certain demographic and they're on TikTok a lot, like let's say young people, like college age girls. Let's say I don't know. I don't know much about TikTok, but it would make sense that you have a presence on that platform. But I can see where it would become obsessive and unhealthy.
Yeah, and what is, I would say, if we had to ask questions, what is the reason you feel you need to be that obsessive? And if the reason is because that's the only way to be seen, you're not guaranteed you're being seen. Like even though I have those 200,000, if I look at YouTube, I mean, my TikTok right now, like my most recent video would probably have like 200 views or something. Mm-hmm. How is that possible? How are only 200 of my followers seeing, and I don't even know if they are my followers seeing it,
right.
But how do I, and there's no control over it. The other reason I stopped was because TikTok changed the way it does stuff. So it used to be very clear how you made money. Now it's like you got to make commercials constantly.
It definitely feels like a hamster wheel that I do not want to step on.
Well, there's a great thing I read, and it says social media is a full-time job that you're not getting paid for.
Exactly. And I think the carrot is dangled in front of your face of that one person or whatever that went viral and made a lot of money. And you're like, oh, that could be me. I'm going to keep on this hamster wheel. And in the meantime, you're missing out on a lot of life. And I think that is where you have to come up with some kind of balance.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is it's like the lottery, you know, like people play the lottery because somebody has to win, you know, and you have those dreams that it's going to happen. But I think it's the chances of you doing anything. Well, the other thing is, if you win the lottery, there's a book out there, I can't remember what it's called, but it talks about all these people who won the lottery and then they lost all the money because they just weren't good with money to begin with, and that's why they were playing the lottery.
Yeah.
And then they end up...
That would not happen to me, I guarantee you.
That's what everybody says.
Of my life.
That's what everybody says. But the truth is that majority of people who win the lottery, they wish they didn't because it actually ruined their lives, right?
That's really sad.
Yes. And I would question the same thing. Like, you want to become viral. Do you really want to be viral? Do you really want to have that fame?
That's a nightmare waiting to happen.
Yeah. You're trying really hard. And just like that Christmas guy, you're trying stupid things to get seen. And
that is hilarious. I've got to watch that show now. That's so funny.
I like the show. It's silly because every season there's a murder in the building, you know.
Oh, okay.
I think it's funny. And I think Martin Short, and I think the whole cast is brilliant.
Yeah, they are funny.
And they have a lot of great guest stars.
But yeah, so if you're stuck, like if I look at on my YouTube channel, like what my most popular videos, they're nowhere near like a billion. They're in the thousands at the most, are things that, yeah, I enjoyed that video, but I don't want to feel pressure to keep doing that type of video.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that makes me dumb or something, but it's like, no, I kind of started because I want to do what I'm interested in and find it's a very small niche, but find other people that like that niche and connect with them.
Yeah. And we discussed this, that I told you that the videos I was proud of, the ones that I put time in and I made, and they looked good and everything and sounded great, those got no views really. But the one that got over like 1.5 million views was just me reacting to something.
Okay.
Like I didn't talk. I just stared at the phone while I was reacting to this video. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Reacting videos now? And first of all,
you're the reacting guy.
Yeah. And people do that. There's a lot of that stuff out there. But I just had no idea why that worked and another one didn't. And it wasn't about the quality at all. It wasn't about the time I put into it. So there's no rhyme or reason. And that was before that the algorithms changed to the point now where I don't even think, like, you literally have a second to catch somebody or it goes flat.
Right.
Right. If that video doesn't trigger the algorithm to say this is interesting, it goes to the trash pile. If for some reason it does and they think the algorithm thinks it might work, it sends it to somebody else. And if that person does the same thing, it just keeps, if those eyeballs stay on it, you'll get views. But what do you got to do? Like, at what point do you end up becoming an idiot just to get views? And is that your art?
God, yeah. And then, I mean, that's why I think I think people are going to get smarter about it. And I hope, and more conscious of like the man behind the curtain, because if you just follow what is popular, you'll end up, shaking your butt into the camera. And is that really what you want to do with your life?
Yeah. It blows my mind that a lot of people do want to do that because they'd rather, they'll cross whatever line just to get likes and follows.
Yeah, but it's diminishing returns.
Yeah, and I also think that we're talking about creative people. You're an artist, and unless your art is comedy and you're an actor and you want to do something silly because you want to be a comedian actor or something like that, or you're doing things to get noticed, I don't know what like a musician doing anything stupid is going to get you. Like,
yes, or a writer.
Right. And here's the thing.
Writers are famously introverted, most of them anyway.
Yeah.
And some are great at self-promoting. I'm not saying that. I mean, there are some people that have written for bookworms and like, these guys are busy. They're constantly posting things and getting involved and stuff. So some people are better at it than others.
Well, let's talk about this. This is what we're seeing. We don't know if this is something they're enjoying. We don't know if they're miserable. We don't know if they're on the edge, And here's 5 things there's a website I was at or a YouTube. I'll try to post it in the comments, but here's 5 things why this idea of promoting yourself and then seeing other people on here is bad for you. So 1 is everyone is a hip artist with an amazing life except for me. And that is exactly what it feels like when you see these writers who are going from bookstore to bookstore. They're promoting their stuff, but they're also running around with other artists and
I know.
authors.
It looks like so much fun.
Exactly.
And we're not invited.
Yes. And so that's probably not true, but that's what it feels like. The other thing is every other artwork or music or book on Instagram is perfect, right? Mm-hmm. If you see somebody's artwork, you're like, wow, that's amazing. Or you hear somebody talking about a book it's just the best book ever, right? So everything else you see is going to be great and perfect. And we know that's not true, but that's how it appears.
Yes.
This one gets me a lot. Every other artist's workspaces are beautiful.
Yeah, the reality is quite different.
Mine's like right now, it's so out of control. But
mine too. But you've seen my space. Well, although I cleaned it recently when I got my new computer.
Yeah, I try. But you watch other people, you're like, wow, look how perfect that studio is.
Everything's white.
Yes. All right, here's another one. Everyone else is winning awards, and I got rejected 3 times this week. Right. Obviously, people are going to post when they do good things, and we think that that's all they do is get great things. And then follows and comments, that's the other thing. We see everybody else having this. So we're posting, but as we're posting, we're getting discouraged. And I'm saying that these other people that we're looking at, they're probably just as miserable as everyone else. And they're doing this to kind of, well, here's the other thing that there's
they have an assistant doing it for them.
That's correct. The higher up you get, the more it's going to be someone else doing it, not you. There's a YouTube guy. He's called The Art Mentor, and I'm going to post his video. It's the toxic price of being popular artist on social media. But he talks about his experience was growing up. He always had, people saying, oh, why you're wasting your time with art. There was really no support. And so he says a lot of artists feel this way, where they grew up and they didn't have the support, and getting a following feels like validation.
Yes, definitely.
And everyone who's an artist, a musician, whatever you are, you're like, I want to be validated for what I'm doing, because just the world in general doesn't value what you do. I think it's an ugly way, because even if you get 1 million followers, it's not going to help you, because it's coming from within. That hole is inside of you. And if you go.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
It just reminds me of something I've been working on in my therapy and in my healing process and my reading and my journaling and all of this stuff, is developing an internal locus of control versus the external locus of control, which is like a popular terminology now in like, I guess, psychology circles, but it makes a lot of sense. In other words, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but I've gotten better at it. It used to be that maybe like a crappy email from someone or like a negative comment could, if not ruin my day, at least make me feel like crap for a little while. But I really got past that. Doesn't mean I'm inviting abuse, but sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, like I got a rejection from an anthology. It was a very nice rejection. And I send out rejections for bookworms. So
right.
I've been on both sides of this. I think when I was a starting out writer, that would have like really made me question my talent and really depressed me. And I hope that whoever receives one of my rejection letters ever feels that way, because I've been on both sides. But now it's like, okay, I didn't get in that one. I move on. So the internal locus of control is my happiness or my success is not dependent on someone else validating me. The validation comes from within. I'm not going to stop writing. I'm going to always work on my craft. And actually not being in this project has given me more space to do that. So it's a reframing but it has to really come from like a deep place inside. You got to work on it a bit. And I think it's a much healthier approach than be constantly on social media desperately trying to get other people to tell you that you're okay.
Yeah.
That's not healthy in a social setting or in a family setting. And it's certainly not healthy online. So when I did my little purge at the new year, when I quit Twitter and some other things, it actually freed me. And I feel like I'm much more at the place where I should be always. And I'm focusing on my new book.
Right.
I'm focusing on the work.
Yes.
I was a little disappointed that my last novel didn't get as many, reviews or whatever. They're starting to trickle in, but I can't be dependent on that feedback to fuel my next project. That's got to come from within, which it is, and I'm excited about it. So I guess to any creative person who's listening, just because you're not getting the million views or the engagement online does not invalidate you as an artist or as a person.
Right. There is a book that I think it just recently came out. I heard the author on the Happiness Lab podcast, which I love. It's called How to Be Enough, Self-Acceptance for Self-Critics and Perfectionists.
Yeah.
It's in my Amazon list of books I'm going to read. I'll put it in the show notes, but you can also check out the Happiness Lab if you want to hear her talk before you buy the book. But it's exactly what we're talking about is, how can you feel like you're enough as a creative person and not have to go out there and get this validation, or feel like you have to promote yourself to a point where it's unhealthy. Like if I don't post 4 videos a day, then I'm a failure. If I don't do this, then I'm no good.
Right. And sometimes we have the energy to do it, to promote, to put a lot of videos up. And sometimes we just don't. And we should be on a more inward trajectory that's where the writing comes from.
Right.
It doesn't come from an external idea, or else you're just, maybe you're following a trend like, oh, everyone's writing like fae romance, which I actually tried reading and I didn't like it at all. But it's so big. I'm like, could I do that and make money? It's just stupid because I'm not going to write like that. And it's not where I'm coming from. I got to get in touch with the kind of work that I like to do and that I enjoy.
Yeah, which we were talking about earlier, being authentic. You got to be authentic, not only in your post of who you are, but also in your art. That's more important. Like, be authentic in your art. And, and then you brought this up, like, you used to get upset with these comments and things like that. If you want to go crazy to promote yourself and then you do get blow up, can you handle the hate you're going to get? Because that's going to
that's going to happen. Yeah, look at Hawk Chewy girl.
Yeah, that it's definitely going to be a place of like, if you can't handle the bad like you shouldn't even read them, but people will. It's just we're in our nature to read what people write, and most of it's just negative crap.
Yeah, it's like dealing with your first bad review when you're a writer. There was I won't name names, and she finally took it down, but there was this horrible string of comments on one of my Facebook groups for writers groups where I go when I'm wasting time. And she was complaining that she'd gotten her first 1-star review and she was so upset about it. But then she started saying like, well, then I found out who this woman is. She lives in my town, and started giving out like personal information, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Stop. You're making it worse.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And well, there have been people who famously like stalked, and one guy even like hit someone over the head. I don't mean to laugh. I have a macabre sense of humor. Hit her over the head with a bottle of wine or something in a store.
Because she gave him a bad review?
Yeah. Like
wow.
he found that her working in a wine store and hit her over the head. He went to jail, which is where he belongs. But, some people can't handle rejection. It's like you really have to be secure in yourself, and that is a long, lifelong journey.
Yeah.
So just keep working at it. But if you are dealing with the online world and you're not getting the love you're craving or the approbation or whatever from your in likes and comments and reviews. Like, look, I have a YouTube channel that I've had I think I'm going into my 7th year, and people I've started with have far surpassed me in in subscribers. I've kind of plateaued. I would like to reach 5,000 subscribers this year, but I don't know if I will. And sometimes I wonder, like, what am I doing wrong? And then I'm like, you know what? I started this channel. I wanted to do it my way, and this is what I'm doing. And it is what it is. And I'm not going to follow what someone else is doing in order to get popular. I'm just doing it the way I want to do it. And there are always like about 200 people that watch every one of my videos, and I love them. They're my peeps, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And, I was thinking, you were talking about how when we first started this podcast episode, that the way self-promotion has changed. When I was in my band in early 90s, I remember thinking, we're a big fish in a small pond, like in this area, people knew who we were, but outside of that, we were no one. And I think today it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than to be this big fish in the big World Wide Web, because, and everybody says niche down, but I'd rather have, like they say, that 1,000 loyal fans than have 100 and 200,000 people who don't really care. And they don't care. That's the other thing. As an artist, you want to promote, but how many people on TikTok do you remember? Because I know if you're scrolling through TikTok, there are so many people you're seeing, and hardly any of them you remember. And if you do remember them, it's probably because there was something in it for you. Right?
Yes, and it's just also like with the people. I subscribe to a lot of YouTube channels, and I have to cull through those at some point. But the ones I go back to are the people that have an authentic voice that speaks to me. And most of the time, I'm watching things about psychology and childhood trauma and things like this is stuff that I'm working on personally. I'm not watching the popular stuff. I've carved out my own area of interest, which is what's wonderful about the internet, is we all can do that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go with the shaken booty.
Yeah. And that same...
unless you want to.
If that's your thing, yeah.
But that's your thing.
But the Art Mentor YouTube, he also brought up this, like if you ask yourself, why do you want to be popular? And most artists will say, well, I want to start my own business. I want money. I want to quit my job. And his response to that is like, nobody cares that you want to quit your job. Like, right. What is the reason? And he said, the reason needs to be deep and meaningful. And that's somebody doing something that they feel like, for example, if you're watching videos on childhood trauma and things like that, there's somebody on the other end of that is trying to help you. And that's a deep and meaningful reason to put a video out and why people are going to watch it,
Yes.
But if you're just putting a video up and like, hey, here's the art I did, or here's, people are like, I don't care. But if you're showing me how to get better at my art, then I will probably pay attention. That's
a good point. And also something, I think we talked about this in the cafe the other day. And this was from when I was on Twitter. I was following Justine Bateman's tweets, and she had some really good insights about stuff. And I was actually looking for the tweet. I couldn't find it, but it was something like, just for today, do something without taking a picture of it for Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, just for today, go to a museum
and don't tell anyone.
Or a concert, and don't feel the need to project it out into the world that's what you're doing. Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone likes to take pictures. We used to take snapshots with our Instamatic cameras and put it in a photo album when we went somewhere to remember it. I get it. But you were talking about when you went to the Vampire Museum that you took some pictures up, but you don't want to feel always the pressure of having to make a video out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I took pictures for myself. I didn't take pictures the only thing I posted was a picture of my brother. I didn't even post it. My brother posted of me, and I just made it my profile because it was funny. But
right, which is how I knew you were there.
Yeah, but I didn't post one thing from the Vampire Museum. And I think, yes, back in the day we would use our Polaroids and take pictures, but it's on a new scale at this point.
Oh, yeah.
To a place that the average person does it too much. what is it going to be for an artist who is trying to get people to see what they're doing? Right. So if it's just too much, you're posting stuff because they'll tell you, oh, you need to post about your everyday life. I remember the band called the Foxies, and they're not they opened for Billy Idol, so that's about as the level they are, right? I had interviewed them, and I remember them talking about their management and just saying, like, you got to post. Like, they didn't want to, you don't want to do these stupid things, but they're like, we need kind of slice of life stuff, And it's just like, we're writing music and we're trying to play, and now we have to do these stupid, throughout the day videos.
Like reality show.
Yes. And like, most of us didn't sign up for that.
Well, and also because drama depends on conflict. So
yeah,
they don't want to see a boring band that everyone gets along. They want to see, the guy kick the drums over and say, I'm out of here. Yep. Oh God, Billy quit again.
Right.
Dramatic music. But if you don't want to live your life like that. I mean, there's a way of doing it. I think if you want to do it and have fun and it's your choice. And there are times when I'm in the mood to do something silly like that with Batilda or something. That's fine. It's just, it's questioning when you feel like you need to do this all the time, when you don't feel like it and you don't have the energy for it. Oh, I've got to do that video. It's like this, I remember a few years ago, and it was a sad story. This woman had like a mommy blog.
Yeah.
And she was posting a video about how her dog died and her little kid was like upset about it. And she's like, she didn't realize she uploaded the wrong video. So that the end of the videos has her saying to the kid, look sad, and he's like, but I am. It was awful. And he's like, I am sad, Mom. He's like, no, you don't look sad enough. And she had to like pose him for the thumbnail, and everyone like came at her like, what are you doing to your kid?
Yeah.
It totally backfired. But I'm thinking this woman is probably feeling the pressure to make money doing this, and she's losing that moment with her son over the dog, which should have been a private moment of grief. So we need to find, this isn't going to speak to everyone because a lot of people I know, including my husband, they have no social media and they live very fulfilled lives.
Well, yeah, but I think that's our generation too. Like I know a lot of people who they don't even have a Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's healthier. And
I do too. In some ways.
I think as an artist, I think it'd be more interesting to let other people discover you organically. Maybe you're at an event and somebody discovers you and they take their picture and they post it and let them promote you, let other people.
That's ideal, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, we should be focusing on the work, and we should have social media work for us, not work for social media, if you want to, obviously, but I just think that there's a myth now that if I saturate the internet, I will become famous and I will make money and I will have a following and I will, no, I don't think, like, again, I think it's like playing the lottery. Yeah, sure, it may happen.
It's a Faustian bargain too, where, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
It's
especially in this day and age, because it's not where, God forbid you're out and you say, oh, that's a really, that show is retarded. Okay, now that, and somebody picks that up, right? You're done.
Oh, thank God these cameras weren't around when I was in my 20s. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I was talking to actually the drummer in my band from the 90s. We met up because he found a bunch of old tapes of us playing live all over the place. And he was giving to me, and I said exactly the same thing. I was like, you know what? Thank God, like, I am not part of that generation that today, because I don't know, I would probably have a different mindset. But I'm saying, like, you don't really want to get noticed anymore.
Because how can you live your life freely with this possible camera everywhere? Like, I was just thinking at that time that I was, 22 and I got really drunk and fell off a bar stool. Like, that was a funny story, a funny memory, and kind of embarrassing. But if there had been a camera there and I went viral, that would have been tragic.
Well, I actually see a lot of those type of videos where it's just a compilation of drunk girls falling. And
I know.
And I'm like, you wonder how these people feel that it's out there. I don't know.
And it could be even worse than falling off a bar stool.
Exactly. But, I don't really feel, I'm leaning more towards less, like here's a good thing, like bookworms. This is what I'm talking about, a big fish in a small pond.
Let's bring it back to bookworms here.
Yeah. We don't have a huge following on Instagram yet, but I don't care because I only want the people who are interested in bookworms to follow us, right? There's no need for me to have 10,000 followers if, 9,000 of them are just clicking because I posted a video that they thought was funny.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that we're also in a small area, like zines, horror zine specifically is a small niche.
It is, but I think this is the future. I think niche, you quoted something about niche. What did you say earlier?
I don't remember.
That's, I don't know. You said something and it sounded good, but about small niches. But I think that this is the future. We're oversaturated with so much that just focusing on the thing that only a few people know about, I think is going to be much more special.
Yes.
It'll have a sense of mystery about it, which we've lost that. Like, have a little mystery.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather somebody hear about bookworms through word of mouth and through somebody who loves it, who talks to a friend about it, or they see it on their table, or they see someone reading it, than because I posted something. There's no real connection from just posting something. And great, if I post something and it turns into a sale, that's great. But the sale isn't going to get that person to be a fan. It's the material
fan.
Right. It's the stuff we worked on that's going to hopefully make them want to buy the next issue.
Which is what is the important part.
Yeah.
Because I think if you are just going as an artist, if you're just going for the trend, your work is really going to suffer.
Yes.
And you're going to kind of forget why you did it in the first place, why you wanted to do it. It's like, well, people like this when I dress up as Christmas, so I can't stop. I can't drop it now.
He couldn't. And it's the thing is, what is, you began as an artist, now you're an influencer or a content creator, like, what are you? Are you a writer? Or are you a content creator? Because if you're putting more time, if you're putting so much time into creating content, you're right. Your work is now suffering because the writing is suffering. And so it should be that there's a book I have on my shelf I haven't read yet, but it's like so good they can't ignore you. I think that is the future. I think that
would be the goal, wouldn't it?
But I think that should be the goal. I think you should be worried more about working so hard on your craft that you can't be ignored to the point where somebody's going to, like it's just going to happen and not like because you've been posting so many videos and then all of a sudden, you're going to be asked to, oh, well, do you want to write a book because you have 500,000 followers and you haven't written a book forever because you've been posting and getting followers.
Yeah.
I
mean, so I was thinking of like who was like a great self-promoter who was also an amazing artist. Like Salvador Dali would famously dress, like he famously dressed up in a scuba dive, like one of those old-fashioned scuba diving costumes, outfits with those big round, I don't know what they call it, like helmets or something. And he almost suffocated at the art opening because he was trapped inside that. But he's one of the best painters of all times. I love him. He's one of my favorites. But he was really great at self-promotion. So I don't want to give the message that, a real artist doesn't do this.
No, I don't think that.
They do.
But some people have it in there.
No, you don't. But I think that's what I mentioned in the beginning, that romantic idea of like, I don't want to have to cheapen myself.
Right. No, you're good. Like I said, I think it's a necessary evil. And I also think some people have self-promotion in their DNA and I know people, I'm like, man, they can walk up to anybody
Yes, I know those people too.
And
I'm
they
not one
are
of them.
instantly friends with everybody. And they're so good at it. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I would love for this person to like represent me because they would be perfect at that kind of job.
That is a gift.
Yes. And again, some people have it and then others have to work on it, but we don't have to work on it as crazy as we are being told we have to. You know?
Yes, I think that's the point. And if we're as older people are feeling the pressure, I imagine for younger people,
right. It's insane.
Even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you need to do is focus on the art, let the rest kind of happen. Don't worry about how often you have to, because, everybody has a video now on how to succeed at doing this. And
right.
I think that's all crap too.
I do too.
You need how much should I post each day on Instagram in order to get a following of this many? And again, if there's anything that I feel like is the least valuable thing, it's likes and follows, because now it's just like, I mean, why are people clicking on things? They're not clicking on them because they want to buy your work or they want to, it's just because it's now almost a habit. Yeah, I like that. That was fun. All right,
Yeah.
But it's not like, again, this Philly Zine Fest I went to, the Lancaster one, I'm seeing people who I met and talked to at the Philly one, they're trying to get into this, and I'm like so excited to actually see them in person again.
Yeah, that's true. And we talked about that before. The actual experience versus the online experience is just so much better on every level.
Yes. And I think that those are things, if you want to work on your art, find things in the real world. Because as you brought up before, how like there's the mystery and all that stuff, you think that's going to come back. I think community is going to come back, and small community, not like big things, but local artists getting together and doing something. Or at least I hope we start seeing more of that. And I know locally there's the Arts Council of Princeton, and they have so many events for artists. Are people going? I don't know. But I think that's where we need to move forward as creative people, is find something in your community or start your own collective of artists who get together and share each other's ideas and works and things like that. I think that's a better solution. And then, when you're there, you can say, "Oh, here's my Instagram." Fine. But I know you in person. I could see you maybe once a month or once a week. I would rather have that experience than I followed you because you popped up on my feed,
Yes, absolutely. And it is getting out. It's healthier. We all need to do that. And I think that developing your own niche is a fun way. It's like a great hobby, and it might lead to something. It might not. When I say lead to something, it might lead to fame and fortune, but you have to think about it. It does get very boring when everyone is doing the same thing.
Yeah. And like that thing I read earlier, it seems like that's the way we are headed. Like people just copying and copying and copying all these different trends,
Yeah.
And again, this is we're talking specifically about for creative people. We don't think, like, if you're somebody who is a dancer and that's creative, but I mean, if that's your thing, then maybe dancing on TikTok makes sense, But right. I don't think if you're like a fine artist shaking your butt and whatever, unless you're painting on your butt, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But But yeah, this is a good topic. And if you have any comments, you can find us on Instagram at Bookworms Horror Zine. If you want to buy Bookworms, that's bookwormshorror.com. And I think we're also Bookworms Horror on X. We're also on YouTube. Like, these podcast episodes are posted on YouTube, so you can comment on that too. So yeah, all right. And
I'd love to know what people think.
Yeah, about this topic.
About this topic. And sometimes you need to step away and focus on what's important, and then come back with some fresh ideas, and maybe then you'll go viral.
Well, or not.
Or not.
So, all right. Well, we'll be back at some point. I don't know. We'll try to, like, again, we always try to do it weekly, but if life happens, it happens.
Yes. True.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.